This is the story of how motorcycle YouTuber Itchy Boots rode her favorite ADV bike 65,000 kilometers across 2 continents, and why the motorcycle community still calls it one of the most expensive decisions she ever made. The Honda CRF300L Rally wasn't a mistake in the way you might think, but 3 specific choices Noraly made around this $5,000 motorcycle would cost her thousands more, force a complete rebuild in Alaska, strand her in West Africa, and ultimately end with a crash in Tanzania that retired the bike forever. Noraly Schoenmaker is the Dutch geologist turned solo motorcycle traveler behind the YouTube channel Itchy Boots. She has over 3.3 million subscribers as of 2026, has ridden over 190,000 kilometers solo across approximately 80 countries, and posts twice weekly to an audience of nearly 780 million cumulative views. Back in 2018, she quit her job as a geologist, sold everything she owned, left the Netherlands, and has been traveling the world full-time by motorcycle ever since. The important context here is that Noraly has never publicly called buying the CRF300L Rally a mistake. She actually wrote on her blog that it was the best ADV bike I've owned, and after 43,000 kilometers, she said she had fallen in love with this motorcycle so much that she wanted to continue riding it around the world. She rode it from November 2021 to May 2024, roughly 30 months before retiring it. So if she loved the bike, why does the community frame this as an expensive mistake? Because of 3 specific decisions she made that turned a budget-friendly choice into a costly adventure. The Honda CRF300L Rally launched as a 2021 model update to the CRF250L Rally. The specs were straightforward: 286 cubic centimeters liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine, 27. 3 horsepower, 333 pounds wet weight, 21-inch front wheel, 18-inch rear, and a fuel capacity of 3.4 gallons. The MSRP at launch was $5,999 for the non-ABS version and $6,299 with ABS. The closest competitor, the Yamaha WR250R, was listed at $6,699, which gives you a sense of where Honda positioned this bike. This was their budget adventure bike, and the price reflected that reality. In December 2021, Noraly published a blog post titled "New Bike of Choice for Season 6" that explained her reasoning. She wanted something low budget, lightweight, small capacity, easy to handle on rough terrain, with minimal maintenance requirements and what she called crazy reliability. She'd already rejected several alternatives, and her reasoning for each one is telling. The Royal Enfield Himalayan she called Dano was too heavy at 200 kilograms with only 24.5 horsepower. The Honda CB500X she named Ronin was, and this is a direct quote, "What a heavy, awkward beast for off-road work." The KTM EXC 450 or 500 was feather-lighted under 120 kilograms, but in her words, service intervals are killing, and reliability is also still an issue for KTM. The KTM 790 Adventure was too heavy and too tall for her. Her conclusion, quoted directly from that blog post, was simple. Within the small capacity, light, single-cylinder, budget, off-road motorcycles, there is only one option available, the new CRF300 Rally. And that's where expensive decision number 1 happened. In that same blog post, Noraly explicitly acknowledged what she was compromising, writing that, "Since the CRF300 is definitely Honda's budget adventure bike, you can tell there was some compromising on the quality of the suspension, for example. It basically comes with a cheap shock." Then she made the choice that would cost her later. A combination of limited time to do upgrades and the money involved in it made me decide to leave her as she is. She bought the bike new in November 2021 in the Netherlands and shipped it to South America without upgrading the suspension. The stock suspension on the CRF300L Rally was widely known in reviews to be soft and spongy, non-adjustable from the factory, and inadequate for heavy-load adventure riding. Noraly knew this, she acknowledged it, but she was in a rush to resume her journey to Alaska after COVID delays, and a suspension upgrade costs serious money. Spending thousands on a brand new bike that already cost $6,000 felt wrong to her at the time. What happened next was exactly what you'd expect. In a later blog post titled "On the ODO 36,000 kilometers," Noraly wrote just 2 words about that decision. Well, it was necessary. The bike was very bouncy on rougher terrain, especially with luggage strapped on the back, which meant she needed a full suspension upgrade, front and rear, shipped to her in Central America. Central American logistics for motorcycle parts proved difficult, so she had a complete Rally Raid Performance Products suspension kit sent to her in San Diego, California instead. Rally Raid's Level 2 kits for the CRF300L Rally retail for approximately $1,800 to $2,500 in parts alone. Add international shipping, U.S. labor, and the logistics of coordinating all of this mid-trip, and as Noraly herself put it, having both rear and front suspension changed in the USA was not a cheap venture, but I figured it was going to be worth it. That's expensive decision number 1, skipping a known, necessary upgrade at purchase, then paying significantly more to install it thousands of miles from home in a foreign country. West Africa in early to mid-2024 is where expensive decision number 2 happened. Noraly was deep in her Africa season, riding through some of the most challenging terrain on the continent, and between border crossings, she encountered deep mud and clay so bad that even trucks were getting stuck. She had to slip the clutch constantly, waddling the small 27-horsepower Honda through impassable conditions that the bike simply wasn't designed to handle. The clutch plates burned out, the bike failed on pavement shortly after, and Noraly had to be rescued, towed, and then transported approximately 570 kilometers, that's 354 miles, through a border crossing into Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, where she could get parts and a complete clutch rebuild. Ride Apart covered this incident in an article titled, "Itchy Boots Repairs Her Bike in the Middle of West Africa." And some viewers argued this episode demonstrated that a 27-horsepower single-cylinder bike was simply undersized for the kind of terrain she was riding. A 570-kilometer tow across international borders, emergency parts sourcing in West Africa, complete clutch replacement, none of that is cheap and none of it was planned. That's expensive decision number 2, pushing a budget-spec dual sport through extreme conditions it wasn't really designed for. The bike survived West Africa though, it made it through. And that brings us to expensive decision number 3, the Alaska rebuild. After 43,000 kilometers of what Noraly herself called abuse, the bike needed serious work. The trigger was a worn countershaft, but once she opened it up, she went all in. According to her blog post, My Upgraded Honda CRF300L Rally 2.0 and coverage from Ride Apart, the rebuild included a new camshaft and complete engine rebuild, replacement of the worn countershaft, a new aero exhaust system purchased on Revzilla, a Seat Concepts comfort seat which she had to pick up in Idaho because they wouldn't ship to Alaska, a Pro Taper Evo Bar Adventure handlebar with risers, a Camel ADV 5-liter auxiliary fuel tank, a taller smoke-tinted windscreen, a metal radiator guard, a chrome rear sprocket from Dirt Tricks, new decals, paint, and protective treatments. She purchased most of the parts herself. She was transparent about what was sponsored and what wasn't, and the list of Honda OEM parts alone was extensive. This wasn't just maintenance, this was a complete transformation of a bike she'd already invested thousands of extra dollars into with the suspension upgrade and the West Africa clutch disaster. And here's the kicker. Less than a year later, the bike's career ended. May 2024, Tanzania, near the city of Mbeya. Noraly hit an unexpected rut on what she described as a relatively good road and went down hard, breaking her collarbone and her foot. Her own words, captured on video, were, "I think I just broke my collarbone and a foot in the middle of nowhere." She used her Garmin InReach to message a friend. A passing truck eventually stopped to help, and she was treated initially in a Tanzanian hospital before flying to the Netherlands for surgery. During or after that surgery, a lung collapsed, a complication Noraly said in a 2026 Facebook post she never really recovered from. She shipped the CRF300L Rally back to the Netherlands and retired it, and her own words on her website were simple. "My CRF300 Rally got enough beating so I retired this bike. Total mileage at retirement, approximately 65,000 kilometers. Let's add this up now. A $5,999 motorcycle, a multi-$1,000 suspension upgrade installed mid-trip in the United States, a 570-kilometer emergency tow and clutch rebuild in West Africa, a complete engine and cosmetic overhaul in Alaska, and finally, international shipping costs to return the bike to the Netherlands for retirement." Was the CRF300L Rally itself a mistake? No. Noraly loved it. It carried her 65,000 kilometers across South America, Central America, North America, and Africa over 30 months, and it did exactly what she asked it to do. But the three decisions, skipping the suspension upgrade at purchase, pushing it through West African mud beyond its design limits, and investing in a full rebuild only to crash less than a year later, those turned a budget bike into a very expensive adventure. And that's where the community debate comes in. There are two camps with completely different takes. Camp 1 says Noraly made the right choice, pointing to a YouTube video titled "Itchy Boots Was Not Wrong. Honda CRF300 Rally," that defends the decision as appropriate for a small, light, reliable solo traveler bike. Reviewers at Rider Magazine, Cycle World, and ADV Pulse generally rated the bike favorably for its price segment, and Outback Motortech, the company that supplied her crash bars, publicly praised the CRF300L Rally as a sound dual sport platform. Camp 2 says the bike was underpowered and compromised from the start. Forum commenters on sites like Bergman USA and others calculated the CRF300L Rally's power-to-weight ratio at roughly 0.080 horsepower per pound. And for comparison, the 1987 Yamaha Tenere she's riding now, a bike she calls Frankie, has a ratio of 0.132 horsepower per pound, a 65% improvement. These critics argue that with an estimated YouTube income in the six figures annually, Noraly could and should have started with a better suspended, more powerful bike instead of treating it as a budget build. But here's the thing those critics miss. Noraly's entire channel philosophy is built around accessibility and relatability. She rides bikes that regular people can afford and maintain, she does her own wrenching, and she shows the struggles, the failures, the mistakes that come with real adventure riding. The CRF300L Rally wasn't expensive because it was the wrong bike. It was expensive because real-world adventure riding is expensive, and Noraly showed us exactly what that looks like. The suspension that needs upgrading, the clutch that burns out in the mud, the rebuild that becomes necessary, and the crash that can end it all. After retiring the Honda, Noraly revealed her next bike in Season 8, a heavily modified 1987 Yamaha Tenere built to be the same model year as Noraly herself. It's air-cooled, carbureted, weighs only 5 pounds more than the CRF300L Rally, but makes 45 horsepower instead of 27. That bike was later stolen and trashed in Wales in 2025 or 2026, proving once again that no bike choice is perfect and every adventure comes with its costs. So was the Honda CRF300L Rally Noraly's most expensive bike mistake? Not really. It was her most expensive bike lesson, and for the 3 million subscribers who watched every kilometer of that journey, it was worth every penny she spent and every penny we didn't have to.